USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
I'm Nowell Jr. I'm originally from Hickory, North Carolina. I spent 38 years in the Navy, 42 if you count my time at Annapolis. And I found out about the Naval Academy when I was in 7th grade. I found a Naval Academy catalog while I was looking for a book on submarines in World War II in the public library in Hickory. And I read that and I knew that's where I wanted to go. Yeah, so my dad actually was in the Army in between Korea and the Vietnam War. And then while I'd heard tales of a great uncle who had been in the Navy, I discounted them until later I found that, that not only was he in the Navy, but he was one of the chiefs of naval personnel, and I ended up as the Chief of Naval Personnel. I was a surface warfare officer in the Navy, a ship driver. I did cruisers, destroyers. I was on Arleigh Burke when she was the first Arleigh Burke class DDG. I was on the Sullivans, pretty noteworthy ship with the 5 Sullivan brothers as the XO, and then commanded USS Porter, one of our Flight 2 DDGs for Operation Iraqi Freedom. Had command of a Destroyer Squadron out of Naples, Italy, but a lot of time in the high north, the Black Sea, Eastern Mediterranean, then down off Africa, and then commanded a strike group, an expeditionary strike group, the BONHOMME strike group over in Western Pacific, based out of Japan for my last sea tour. But we were in 38 years. We did 23 moves, East Coast, West Coast, Japan twice, and Europe twice, and loved every minute of it. So one of the things that I'd highlight is, first when folks say, what was your favorite tour in the Navy, you'll find few flag officers that will not say the command that they had as an 05 as a commander. Mine was surely when I commanded USS Porter, but I enjoyed every tour. We surge deployed for Operation Iraqi Freedom, and I would tell you that that one of the highs and the lows there was that on the way over we stopped just for a brief stop to take on fuel, and while we were there a storm rolled in to one of the ports in the Mediterranean. I had a large number of the crew off the ship on Liberty, didn't have time to get them back aboard, but we parted about 8 of 11 lines that I had over. The fantail went underneath the pier. We almost lost the ship on the quay, but because of the training of the ship's crew, we were able to get her underway. We steamed out. We effected repairs underway, normally repairs that would be done in a depot, and then we shot a bunch of Tomahawks and did a bunch of ballistic missile defense. USS Porter, DDG 78. So Admiral Arleigh Burke said that you'll fight the way you train, and in that case, the ship absolutely, got through that challenge because of the training that they'd had, and they lived up to it. So that for me, that was both the high and the low, but the high for me has always been the people that I've had a chance to serve with. So I've been involved with the Navy Memorial for well over the last decade, both in uniform and out of uniform. When I was in uniform, I would routinely come to events at the Navy Memorial. I spoke at one of the blessings of the fleet. I did the second SITREP, an informational interview between the CEO and Navy leadership. So I did the second one of those with Admiral Frank Thorpe, who was the CEO then, and when I was Chief of Naval Personnel. And so I knew the Navy Memorial. My wife had been to a number of Lone Sailor Award dinners, and so we thought a lot of both the place, the people, and the mission. And so when I got out of the Navy, I did some consulting, went to work full-time for a super company that I really enjoyed, but the opportunity came up here at the Navy Memorial. It was not necessarily something that I was looking for at the time, but the chairman of the board said, you know, would you consider it? And I looked at it, and I think for me, it's about what mission do you want, what's your purpose, and what gets you jazzed up. And that's exactly what this place did for me. So the Navy Memorial was actually the brainchild of Admiral Arleigh Burke back in the 70s. There had been as far back as, you know, during the Revolutionary War and when Pierre L'Enfant came up with the plans for the Capitol, the idea of a Navy Memorial, but that had never been effected. And so Admiral Arleigh Burke and some of his fellow Navy admirals got together and said, we need to try and make that happen. They formed the Navy Memorial Foundation. They lobbied Congress to go ahead and construct a Navy Memorial on public land. That's our Granite Sea. And so in 1977, we did the ribbon cutting for the Granite Sea, where you see the Lone Sailor statue. In 1981, we opened the Visitor Center. So the Navy Memorial, our mission is to honor, recognize, and celebrate the men and women of the sea services. That's the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, the Navy, and the Merchant Marine, to honor and celebrate and recognize their service, both past sea service members, present, and the future, and then to inform the public. And so we do that through a whole range of events, 300 events a year. We have 40 different programs like our Future Sailors program, our Veterans Support programs. We also have digital programming online that gets this message outside the Beltway, whether it is with SITREPs, where I will interview Navy leaders on current topics, whether it is Bridgewing Chats, where we bring sea service leadership in with both junior and more senior folks and experts from industry or academia to discuss some of those challenges, or whether it's things like our Fantail Breakfast, where we'll get industry leaders, naval enthusiasts together with Navy leadership or sea service leadership to talk about how to work together to get after the challenges that face a maritime nation like ours. And then as you see, right, we are a real live, brick and mortar entity on Pennsylvania Avenue, which is the nation's thoroughfare, halfway in between the Capitol and the White House. So we say that's neutral ground. Our own metro stop next to the National Archives, so easy to get to, but we do all kinds of events. Yesterday we had the Veterans Day wreath laying ceremony here, where we had a chance to honor and recognize and celebrate our sea service veterans, or the chance to talk to heroes from the Merchant Marine, like we did this morning about their service. And one of the things that was neat for me there, and getting back to this inform the public, is best theater in Washington, D.C., first LED wall. We do plenty of film premieres and things like that, but maybe more importantly, whenever we're open, we're showing programming like Faces of the Fleet or the Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group post-deployment debrief, or our Sailors versus Influencers, you name it. we have continually rolling footage that shows the public what their sea services are doing, and they get to hear about it through sailors, not through old admirals like me. It's pretty compelling. Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I think when you look at the statistics of how many World War II veterans there are and how fast we're losing them, it is important to capture their stories. We do that through an oral history program. We call it Stories of Service, and it may be World War II, maybe Korean War or the Vietnam War, and those are available on our website for free to anyone. But chronicling that kind of heroism, that kind of courage, I think is very important, both for us to remember, and then as we look at the next generation, to get them fired up about what they can do to serve their nation. So as we look at our education programs, one that we're particularly proud of is we partner with the National Park Service for our junior sailor program. So just like you can go to any national park and the kids can go ahead and work through a program where they get their National Park Service badge, you can do that here to get your future sailor badge. We have a high school internship program as well, where we bring students in for an immersive week, both here at the Navy Memorial and then as well with veterans where they get to take some of those oral histories. And then we're also working to bring more exhibits in that are interactive, so that as we bring youth in either from the community or as we look at all of the youth groups that come in here during the summer months and the fall and the spring, how do we make sure that they are able to learn more about the sea services, but in a manner that's fun and that's engaging for them. We do over 200 honor flights a year here with our veterans, and we're trying to put in place doing 200 youth visits a year with that generation, and we think it's really important to bridge those two. So as someone who has sailed pretty much all the seas over 38 years and has been stationed overseas, the Merchant Marine has always been there for me. And so as we look at being an island nation, as we look at being a country who is very reliant on the maritime commons, right, on global commerce, it's our Merchant Marine that helps to make all of that possible. So Merchant Marine, why important? One is national security, strategic sea lift. How do we get things, whether it's for the military or for everyone else, where they need to go, when they need to be there, and in bulk. I think as you look at economically, critically important, one, for creating jobs, and then two, for making sure that as we look at a skilled workforce that is able to surge in times of war or persist in times of peace, that's what the Merchant Marine is there for. And then our Military Sea Lift Command, if you went back and you asked Admiral Nimitz what helped him win World War II in the Pacific, he would immediately go to the ability to do contested logistics, and that's how do we rearm, refuel, reprovision everywhere in the world, and the Military Sea Lift Command does that for the U.S. Navy, so critically important. So when you look at what flag a ship is flying, right, that a lot of times will determine where they can go, what kind of protections they get, and where the mariners that are on them are willing to go. And so we think that it's a matter of national security to have a strong U.S. flag merchant fleet that's available, whether in peace and perhaps more importantly, as things ratchet up. We hope it'll never be war, But if it comes to that, we need to have our flagged merchant fleet with those mariners in the right places at the right time. So as we look at our merchant marine fleet, I think that there are few folks who are in the Navy or have been in the Navy who would not tell you that we need even more, and would not say that we need even more shipyards building those ships, because we don't want to be reliant on other countries for strategic sea lift. And we know that capacity piece is hard. It's a huge challenge, but it needs to be a national challenge.